folks. Certainly glad you found us in the middle of fall baseball. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. My co-host, Hunter Pence. My name is Daron Sutton, and we've got a great show. Matt Shaw, who is the Cape Cod League MVP, who is at Maryland, and Nick Derba, who is the head coach at Maine. A great little tie there. So if I have these two guests, the obvious question for my color analyst to start things off is, who's going to win the World Series, Hunter Pence? We have Philadelphia, we have Houston. Let's zig. You always talk about zigging and zagging. I zigged, you zag. You played for both teams. What's your prediction?
Goodness. I can't call it, Darren. How are you going to put me on the spot like that? I love both of these cities. Man, this is going to be I am so excited to watch this World Series. If the Astros are able to win, I am going to be over the moon happy for Dusty Baker. Obviously, the Astros getting to kind of prove all of the haters wrong and like, hey, we really are good. It wasn't just this, the scandal thing. So I know that means a lot to all those guys. So that would be special. And they are playing on all cylinders. And the Phillies, come on. I mean, Rob Thompson and all of his principals and them playing as a family, that city going nuts. It's so exciting to watch. And I believe in a lot of the principles and like the words that are coming out of both of these teams' mouths. It's going to be a great clash.
All right, I'll zag back to the show because it's really cool, speaking of the World Series, that Jeremy Pena's there. His head coach, Nick Derba at Maine. It was the first year he was the head coach, his first D1 job. Pena's on his team, and now he watches his alum play in the World Series. This will be a fun conversation about his team and the Pena part, too.
Absolutely. And, I got to read about Nick Derba's comments for Pena early in the year when before Pena had the season that he had and everyone believed in him and were like, all right, well, let's see it. So I'm very excited to get to talk to him after Pena's had the great success and also to hear about what's going on at Maine and looking forward to seeing what they have to come for the 2023 season.
I'll give people a preview. We've already done the interview with Matt Shaw, so we're leading to it now. It blew me away. I mean, the depth of this young man's mind. He's at Maryland. He was a Cape Cod League MVP. Hunter, when he graduated high school, he wasn't a highly ranked athlete, and he's proved all of that wrong. As a matter of fact, he was a top 200 shortstop in the country. He was a number 500 in the rankings. This dude's going to have his name called night one probably in the draft. More than anything, Hunter, you got inside his mind. What an interesting young man.
I'm a buyer on Matt Shaw. I haven't even seen his 2023 season, but if you're a parent and you're coaching a young, talented kid, if you're a young, talented kid and you're looking to get better, you need to watch this interview and listen to it because he's going to give you a beautiful formula for success. And I'm going to let him speak it. You got to check out this interview. Matt Shaw, there's a reason he got Cape Cod MVP. You don't get there. This is the best and the best in the nation. And he excelled, and I am excited for him coming into this year. And it was wonderful to hear how his process has turned itself into a high potential.
So that's our show, and I even got a World Series prediction out of him, kind of, sort of. When we come back, our conversation with the Cape Cod MVP. It's Matt Shaw out of Maryland. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Here we go. There's this history with the Cape Cod League that people watching this show know about. Maybe you newbies don't understand the history of the Cape Cod League, but there's history. It's what it's all about. The northeastern part of the United States where baseball players for generations have gone to hone their craft. And our next guest knew all about it because he wasn't too far growing up from where most of it goes on. So if you know that history and then you win the MVP of that league, that really has to ring solid in your life, really has to hit home. And Matt Shaw, who's at Maryland, the Cape Cod MVP, joins us in this conversation. Matt, thanks for hanging out with Hunter and I. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So before you played in the Cape, better said, when you were much younger, what did you know about the Cape Cod League?
I knew a few things about the Cape Cod League. When I was younger, I thought it was a minor league. I had met a couple guys there, and I thought they played in the minor leagues. I must have been real young. But I knew all along that it was definitely a great league. I just didn't know kind of all the bits and pieces about it.
Matt, that is like a fascinating story because, I mean, obviously most of the players in the Cape Cod League will go on to be in the minor leagues, and there's some tremendous talent. But can you describe the experience for you being a kid that would go and watch the Cape Cod games and, the legend is I've never seen a Cape Cod game, but I've seen the movies and I know all the players that went there, the history. I study it. I love it. What did it feel like for you to go and play in the league that you watched as a kid growing up?
To me, it kind of just felt like playing baseball still. Being up there, being close to home, having my family able to come watch me play is awesome. You can't really get better than that. It was only about 2 hours from my house. But playing on the Massachusetts high school fields is nothing new to me. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being up there, and baseball is kind of the same game, all the time. So being able to be up there and just playing the game that I've played for the last 16, 17, 18 years of my life is awesome.
Yeah, that definitely is awesome. And what you were able to accomplish was awesome. And reading some of it, a couple of the things intrigued me. Obviously, watching your swing is I have a lot of things to dive into that. But one of the things you mentioned was your conversations with your teammates. And one of the best things about the Cape Cod League is obviously the talent from around the nation coming together. But can you talk to me a little bit? You mentioned how approach was one of the things you learned and you discussed with your teammates. And obviously, the MVP of the league, you won the league. The numbers speak for themselves, Matt. But can you tell me a little bit about the process of that success that you had this summer and what that approach was and what some of these conversations was? And I'm sure that it was a dynamic approach and not just one, but I would love to hear through your lens what that was.
Yeah, so I'm pretty obsessed when it comes to approach. There's a lot of great swings, but obviously, as we all know, baseball is a mental game. And being able to be up there and kind of talk approach to the guys was awesome. So personally, I'm a big proponent of sitting on pitches, guessing pitches, whatever you want to call it. Different counts. I think they're going to throw different pitches. If you watch baseball enough, you kind of have a good feel, even just as a viewer of, okay, this guy might want to go to this pitch in this situation, etc. So that's kind of where a lot of our conversations started, was talking about sitting pitches. And then as the season progressed, we started to talk more. We were lucky enough to have Slaltalamakia, Jared, as our bench coach, who's sitting there and able to give us some insight, which is really cool. And as the summer went on and conversations continued, I was just able to really kind of set in stone a plan, an approach every day that was able to work. And everyone's different. Everyone has their different little things that they like to do. But for me, if I go up there and I know what pitch I want to sit on, I know what zone I want to hit in, I know where they want to attack me, I know where their pitches work the best, I know if they're sinking, if they're cutting, etc., then I know I'm going to have a pretty good chance at being successful.
Super insightful answer. I want to dive back. I know Hunter will keep talking hitting with you. I want to steal a few moments of your time because to me, the concept of 2020 was a challenging one, let alone if you're a high school senior, right? So you in Massachusetts, I'm guessing, didn't have much of a senior year. Is that correct, baseball-wise?
Yeah, no baseball senior year. So
you actually, I just a little bit of research found that you went and played in an 18U event after your season ended down in Georgia with NEB and went down there and bowled and played really well. But you had impact your freshman year. Between that shutdown of 20 and playing in your conference at your level at Maryland in 2021 and having a very good year, a very strong freshman. You get on base 41% of the time your freshman year. You're off to a good start, right? Kind of during that time, what did you do to help yourself grow? How creative did you have to be to where you could be an impact player at Maryland without a senior year in high school?
Yeah, when that all kind of hit down on us and a lot of things shut down, pretty early on, I kind of took the mindset that, this was going to be what I made of it. And, I was honestly really excited, which is, has its kind of sound. It might sound like, maybe a little bit selfish in a way, but, being able to be, on my own with no distractions, was actually, to me, looked at it as a really beneficial time. I was able to use the machine a lot. I was able to, work out a lot. I was able to run a lot. So come fall of my freshman year, I was kind of ready to get into things. I mean, it had been, plenty of time since I had played baseball with a team like that. And, I was able to get all the work I needed to do with pretty much no distractions. So I was really excited. I was really pumped up and, definitely ready to get after it at school when I got here.
Yeah, it doesn't sound selfish to me at all, quite frankly. Making yourself better doesn't sound selfish to me at all because your team benefited from it. In the 2022 season, you had some dynamic moments moving ahead to this past year prior to going to the Cape. But I think nothing for me screams being locked in, and Hunter can, tell me I'm right or wrong. I guess he'd tell me I was right. But May 14th and 15th, Michigan got to see you work. And you were 6 for 10 in 2 games, and you homered 5 times. Dude, you walked twice as well. So you got on base. Every time you basically walked out of that on-deck circle, you were on base after that point. A weekend like that, you file them away. You put it in your Dig Me videos, I'm sure, as a positive aspirational thing to go back to. But what are days like that like? I never got to do what you and Hunter did at that level. That May 14th, May 15th, what were those 2 days like?
They were great days. Obviously, I go back and something that I definitely enjoyed. It's a lot of fun, and hitting homers is always fun, as most people will say. But just baseball is a game like that where some days you can be really successful and other days, you line out 5 times.
Right.
So, it's hard to say, there's, 1 or 2 things that were different that weekend. I was sitting on the right pitches. I'm sitting in the right zones. Being able to stay locked in is something that's hard in a long season, but, baseball is, a lot of skill. It's a lot of focus, a lot of consistency. And then day to day, it's a lot of luck too. So, if I'm sitting fastball or I'm sitting curveball or whatever it may be, getting those pitches in the right zones and being able to hit them and, having them go this high instead of this high where some of them are caught and some of them are homers. So, definitely, a little bit of everything involved, but definitely a good weekend.
It's a beautiful perspective, Matt, because you're right. There's times where it goes like that, and then there's times where you may line out. There's times you may not even hit the ball, or you're getting jammed, or you're just zigging when you should be zagging. Baseball's a crazy game, and this brings me to a couple things that you said, Matt. You talked about baseball's a mental game. Baseball, I chose a specific mindset in 2020. You have a picture of Muhammad Ali behind you. You also had a picture of Kobe in your room that we saw before we got started. So. This to me, I want to dig a little deeper for you. Like, what is the mental, what is your mental work? What is your mental skills? Because there's mental health and there's mental skills. And it sounds like you've put time and effort into your mental skills. Like, where do you feed on that? And what is some of your mental approach? And let's say you were talking to a young high school kid. What would you teach them that you've learned from your trials and tribulations?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot that goes into the mental game, as you know. To put it into one thing would be quite difficult, but maybe I can go through a few things and kind of make it, what it is. I love to read, so I've had the opportunity to read a few books, and, if you look up, mental game or mental skills or whatever on Audible, you're going to find 100 different books. So it's, not hard to find. And a lot of those are, say the same message. They're coming from a place of discipline, of focus, of, visualization, of little things that are helpful. And from all of that, you kind of pick little things up along the way that work. For me, a little bit of visualizations is important, but then the mental side is also connected to, nutrition and what you're eating and who you're around. And all of a sudden you realize that, everything that goes into your mental game is also your environment that you live in. So as much as it, you could say it's extremely complicated, but at the same time, it's really, as simple as, you just got to realize, what's in your day-to-day life that's benefiting you and what's in your day-to-day life that's not. And for me, I try to keep, everything in my day-to-day life, stuff that's, beneficial or at least stuff that I believe in and that I love. I have a girlfriend, so, being around her makes me feel like very relaxed and peaceful, and eating right, and drinking electrolytes and all these things that kind of go into just being able to focus on the things that matter, and really having no outside anxiety with kind of the life that surrounds that.
Very beautifully said, Matt. I think that's amazing to hear from you, and I think that is a great gift to give to the players behind you. The consistent, simple things, the things that make you feel good and lift you up, and it leads to success on the field. Now, I had to, when I look at your swing, there's some cool YouTubes. There's a couple of your homers and that approach. And honestly, you have the closed stance, which is unique, but you're short to the ball. I saw a couple where you're able to pull, you're able to go the other way. And it reminds me a little bit of almost like the Chas McCormick. And, obviously you see Stanton, but to me, you're so short to the ball. It's a little more Chas McCormick-y. And I know Trout's your favorite player, but can you talk a little bit about why the closed stance, how that works for you? And I'm a big believer in know thyself. Like, don't try to be anyone else. This is just kind of a thing that I saw. Yeah,
so closed stance kind of came from the fact that, like, my engine is my upper body. So, a lot of times when I overswung, I had tendencies to pull off the ball. So something that would help is when I close my stands off a little bit, now when I'm staying through balls or pulling off balls a little bit, my field is kind of shifted over. So I just have a tendency to kind of stay through more balls. So that was kind of the big thing with closing off the stands.
So insightful, dude. This is Hunter. I'm sorry. Rare is it when I don't have something to say. So, I usually never stop talking. Hunter knows how that works. Matt, I'm really enjoying this conversation and learning about it. Take me a little bit back to your home life. In Massachusetts. Chris and James, your parents, two people that I'm sure worked very hard to support you. And I'm sure there's a lot of in listening to you. There's a lot of reflection, I'm guessing, back to the gratefulness that I'm guessing goes along with it. But tell me a little bit about your upbringing before you gone on to really create your own journey.
Well, I have two older brothers, and then obviously my parents, and my dad, he owns a company. It's waterproofing, and ever since I was really young, I got to kind of see him kind of build the company from nothing to what it is now. Which is a really unique experience because there's a lot of moments I can think back of and remember, like, just kind of confusion on, like, how does he keep kind of working towards this goal? Like, he must be tired, etc. And this isn't even, it might not just be with the his company. I remember this time it was like 5 a.m. He's going out to snow blow the driveway, and it's a huge driveway, like real long and not fun to snow blow. And I'm just like, there's little moments like that kind of just, it was very, I think, enlightening to me that you can kind of always go above and beyond what's comfortable and what you feel like you should be doing. So I think he influenced me. I mean, he influenced me in a lot of ways, but that's one I remember specifically. My dad was always supportive and believing in me and kind of helped me, but from a young age, always believe in myself. And there's a few things, if I'm talking to, a 10-year-old kid, like the two things I'm asking him are, do you love baseball and do you believe in yourself? Because if you have those two things, there's a good chance that you'll do well in the game. It's such a difficult game, so much failure. You have to love it and you have to believe in it. And then my mom was a physical therapist, so she was extremely helpful along the way. When it came to injuries and doing PT on my own and little things and how my shoulder works and how my hips work and all that stuff, she was extremely beneficial. But overall, both of them, just having them support me, just like I talked about early, kind of having no anxiety in and around, what I was focused on. And they did such a good job of helping me to stay focused on what I wanted to be doing, and stay focused on the things I needed to get done. And they supported me and they still support me endlessly. So I'm definitely very thankful for them. And then, my two brothers, growing up with two older brothers, you're always looking ahead and seeing them. They're older than you, they're faster than you, they're taller than you, and always looking ahead and saying, playing with them and their friends, and you realize like you got a long ways to go. So having that as motivation too was cool.
Matt, you're easy to root for. Some beautiful ways of honestly minding all your family members for how they can make you better, and your older brother's being better than you, pushing you a little bit further. I think it's a beautiful perspective on life. I want to, to me, relationships are one of the most amazing things in the baseball journey. And yes, it's fun, the accomplishments and the awards or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's the people, it's the relationships, it's your family. I got to ask you, I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit here, but what was one of your favorite stories, baseball related, non-baseball related, from your Cape Cod team? Or funniest moments that you had this summer, because there's always got to be something, and I want to hear what piqued your interest this summer. If you could give me one really cool moment.
Oh man, that's a good question. Funny moments. I mean, we were laughing like the whole summer, so that's tough. I had a roommate from Alabama, Bryce Evelyn, and we would play the same song in the car right before we got there every day. He would take a Snapchat, and it was the same Snapchat every day, and he'd be like kind of bobbing his head to the song, and when the beat dropped, he'd like smile or something weird. He's a funny kid. And I wouldn't say that's the funniest moment, but consistently that made me laugh on a day-to-day basis. So I definitely enjoyed that every day before the games.
So did it get you fired up? Was this like a fire up thing, or was this just
It was someone's walkout song, maybe a closer, and it has like the trumpet, and it's I forget what the name of the song is, but it's definitely
Okay, and then lastly, Matt, I got one more fun one for you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. World Series predictions. Nobody's played a game yet. Astros and Phillies. I mean, this is an interesting one. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So I've been going back and forth on not only who's going to win, but who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the Phillies at first, and then the Pena kid from the Astros is from Maine, which is awesome. So now I'm kind of on the edge for rooting for the Astros. But oh man, it's such a hard prediction. It's so tough predicting these things.
It really is. There's no wrong answer. It's just
no, that's right. There's no wrong answer, but I think the Astros are a little more consistent. I think the Phillies are a little more momentum. A little riding on their momentum. I think they're both so talented, but when it comes to a 7-game series, the momentum cannot carry you all the way through. So starting pitching is I guess where it's at. So we'll see who pitches the best.
Good stuff, Matt. Hey, by the way, Pena's coach, Nick Derba, is coming on right after you. So good segue for us.
Wow. That's awesome.
Good segue for us. We're going to talk about that man that has you rooting for Houston just a little bit. Hunter played for both, which is fun. Obviously wore the major league uniform for both, certainly. But man, what a great conversation. Hunter knows, rare is it that I find myself getting lost in two other people talking and freeze and don't speak. So what you guys talked about was insightful. Best of luck. We're pulling hard for you, and we can't wait to reconnect, okay?
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure being on.
He's in Maryland. He's a Cape Cod MVP, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting in the draft next year. His name is Matt Shaw. When we come back, our conversation with Nick Derba, the head coach of Maine. This is Perfect Game, college baseball on Perfect Game TV. Well, we had the perfect setup with our last conversation when you have a player say that he's rooting for a team because he's from Maine, speaking of a World Series, when we spoke with Matt Shaw of Maryland. That's a great segue. We didn't pay Matt Shaw anything to say that, but he did. And we're talking about Maine baseball. Nick Derba, who has joined Hunter and I before, reconnects with us, and we spend time with him now heading into his 6th year. Nick, thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate you joining us this fall.
Thanks for having me on. It's always wonderful to be on with you guys.
It's a celebration, certainly. Obviously, Hunter is here as my co-host, which I celebrate every week, but he looks at both Philadelphia and Houston and sees two teams that he wore their uniforms at the major league level. And you look at a guy that in your very first year as the head coach of Maine played for you, and Jeremy Pena, and you see where he has gone now. He played 54 games for you that very first year. And, maybe he didn't have more homers and Castles or more stolen bases than Beck, two guys on your team, but he's in the major leagues. And how much fun has this been watching one of your players have this level of success?
It's, Jeremy was really good then. I was never surprised. I'm not surprised at how good he is and how well he's, succeeding. When he was a third rounder out of here, I always thought he was the best player on the field at all times. We played some pretty good competition. I think his junior year he played 3 of the 5 or 3 of the 6 College World Series bound teams, and he was better than everybody then too. So I'm excited. I'm just proud. It's kind of crazy. I feel like watching like we're watching one of our own. And it's just I'm just excited for him and his family.
Nick, I'm very excited to get this opportunity to talk to you. And when I got to cover, Jeremy Pena's probably the second game of his MLB career. And we got to hear a lot of, we read about a lot of your quotes and how you spoke of him, how his teammates spoke of him. And you basically were like, he's going to be a big leaguer. He's going to be a superstar out of college, kind of saying those same things. He was always the best player on the field, but he's also hardworking, good kid. So I'm excited to get to talk to you, and obviously what Jeremy Pena has done has been incredible. But I want to ask about this offense you got this year coming back. Quinn McDaniel, Jeremiah Jenkins, those guys coming back. How excited are you for them and the offense coming back this season for you in Maine?
I'm excited about our offense. I think the most exciting thing for me is that we've really improved our pitching as well. But like guys like Quinn McDaniel, I think Quinn's going to be the next guy we'll see running around in professional baseball. He's a projected top 5 rounder. He is. We've had a couple of scouts already liken him to Craig Biggio. So that was like highest of praise, right? I mean, that was my favorite player growing up. To hear that name pop out, I was like, wow, that's crazy. So he can hit a little bit. Jeremiah was a freshman All-American, but it's simple stuff, right? Hunter, if you don't strike out, you put the ball in play, you got a good chance. So that's the one thing we still preach. Put the ball in play, situationally hit, and go throw strikes, hit fastballs. We got a chance of being pretty good. So, high expectations, but, I don't think there's too many teams out there that don't have those expectations.
Yeah, you're coming off a pretty good season, 27-22. You mentioned pitching. And I have to, that was one of my later questions I had marked here is you lost a lot of innings from your guys last year. So the pitching outlook this season, if you're excited about it, I'd love to hear what is kind of the pitching outlook and the guys that got you excited coming into this 2023 season.
So Caleb Lease, he was in part of our cornerstone last year. He was our number 2. He pitched a lot as a freshman. He was kind of like the 5 and dive guy, right? We need to get him to that 6 and 7 and, really kind of cement some late inning work for us. So I think he's posed to do that as a sophomore. And Kyle Fitzgerald was a guy that pitched a little bit for us out of the pen last year. He's going to probably be in a starting role. We got a couple of young arms that I think that are, that have a chance of being pro level arms. And some of our older guys, Noah Lewis, Colton Carson, we've had a transfer in Justin Baines. We'll be able to round out a deeper staff, I think, this year. And ultimately, I think we'll be able to limit the walks, right? I mean, college baseball, college baseball walks are so crucial because the home runs are not nearly as high, right? So we can limit the walks and increase some strikeouts. We got a chance of winning a lot of close games.
What are some of the prerequisites in your mind, Nick? I mean, you recruit athletes, they find you, you find them, and then you put that uniform on. And there's a rich history with your program, an amazingly rich history. So what are some of the expectations that you have, that you try to develop as a professional baseball player, then as a coach, that if I wear a Maine uniform and I'm one of your young men, what are some of the prerequisites? What do you ask of your athletes?
Well, I ask a lot of them. And I think it's not just when they're in the uniform. I think it really starts outside of the uniform, right? So you wake up in the morning, your first thing has got to be, how am I getting ready for the day, right? And we talk about winning at everything. Beating your alarm clock, the old cliche, right? Beat the alarm clock, make your bed type thing. It really is a lifestyle, and you guys know this, firsthand. baseball players are crazy people, right? There is a fanaticism amongst us that really this is a hard game, and if you're not baseball crazy, you can't survive in this game. And for us, baseball is a sanctuary. That's the one thing I always talk about, is baseball being a sanctuary. You come to the diamond, you have to be okay with laying it out in the field and failing, and that's what our prerequisite is you show up, and baseball's got to be your passion. If it's not your passion, this is not the place for you.
So it's interesting for you, the passion of coaching. It's not for all great players, and if you're a pro, you're a great player, right? Your journey as a professional, a 6-year journey, thousands of innings caught behind the plate. One of the best players as you go along, but not all great players want to be coaches. At the point, a decade ago, when you're wrapping up your professional career and you're catching in Memphis and you're doing those things, what started to lead you? By the way, I find it ironic that Mitch Canham was on some of your rosters through the time, who now coaches at Oregon State. But what started to lead you down that road as a younger man that said to you, I want to lead young men, I want to coach in this game? What were some of those seminal moments?
It really wasn't that obvious to me. My transition to coaching revolved around my continued education. So, the one thing that I've always said was, my father always talked about being a splendid splinter, right? So Ted Williams was a fantastic, he was a splendid splinter, the original. And he was known to be an offensive player, but not a defensive player. So my father always told me, Nick, you don't want to be a splendid splinter in life. So for me, I played baseball, I did what I had to do, but I always wanted to get my master's degree. And coming in coaching was a way of me getting my master's degree paid for free. And as I started to go through my journey of figuring out what I was going to do as a 28, 29-year-old, I realized that every single life goal or life career or potential career revolved around coaching baseball. And, I caught the bug all over again in a different way, right? You guys know, you catch the bug as a player, you eat, sleep, and breathe it. I caught the bug as a coach, and quite honestly, this is it's the hardest thing I've ever known to do as a coach, but it is by far the most. It's just the best thing I could have ever done for my life, and coming and coaching was something that if you asked 16-year-old me, I would have laughed in my face, because the one thing I was never going to be as a 16-year-old was a pro scout or a college baseball coach.
Wow, that's wild to hear, Nick. And if you look at it, you've set the example. Like, just going through your resume, you were a major biology, which is incredibly tough. Looking for pre-med, you had a double minor in psychology and chemistry. You weren't just skeeting by when you were also playing and leading your team. To me, that at the end of the day, you can look at the coach and, like, if he's telling you to do something he didn't do, you've done it. You were involved in the community, and that speaks volumes. I want to ask you, though, obviously, about the Cardinals organization, your minor league time, and what you took from that. Because I think you were there in a window that was where the Cardinals were on this regime of going to the World Series, winning World Series. The Pujols was there. You were 2012, and through about 6 years in the Cardinals organization. And that was, they had La Russa and it switched to Matheny, but they were so far ahead of the game, I thought, in baseball. So what did you learn with your 6 years in the Cardinals organization?
Well, so I'll give you a quick anecdote. So 2007, I'm drafted. 2008, I'm invited to my first big league camp. And I walk into Palm Beach in the big league spring training clubhouse. And the first person that I literally bump into is Juan Gonzalez, was on the roster at the time. I live above, Juan, I'm 5'10", Juan's 6'5". So I bump into his belly button. And then I look to my left, you got Albert Pujols. And all I think about is, I don't belong here, But realistically, the one thing that I learned from this was that no matter how good these guys were, they outworked everybody. I mean, Hunter, you were one of the best players in the game. I have to assume that you were fanatical about your work and getting your stuff done, because you knew that there was someone coming for you, right? You always knew it. And I think that that's something that I didn't really realize until pro ball, was you're literally playing for food now, right? You're literally playing for the ability to put food on the table for yourself, for your kids. And that was something that I learned, talking to, watching these guys, Yadier Molina, right? These guys won a World Series in 07, or 06. These guys are beating everybody to the field. And that work ethic and the focus level was something that I, was really the one thing that I really learned from the Cardinals.
Wow, that's definitely beautiful, and to hear that about Pujols, especially after the season he just had, speaks volumes. And I think the legends are, they called him the hit machine, but everyone said he'd be at the field at 6 a.m, hitting off the tee every day. And you love to hear that as a baseball guy, as a fanatical guy. So turning this back around to your 2023 season this fall, was there anyone in particular? And for me, one of my favorite things is how much did you improve year to year? Did anyone come into this fall and you just be like, well, this player made some adjustments. We may have something we didn't expect, and there may be something that the college world could be surprised.
So last year for us, we knew Quinn was gonna be a pretty good player, but Quinn McDaniel was took the big jump, right? And Jeremiah Jenkins coming in as a freshman, he obviously was an immediate impact player. But the guy that I really think is going to be a big cornerstone offensively is Jake Reynes. He'll be playing shortstop for us. He got hurt last year, so he came in last year, was playing center field. We got up moving to play third base mid-series. He's playing very well, hitting, playing great defense. Winds up breaking his finger on a bunt. He'll be our starting shortstop this year. And what he brings from experience standpoint, from the ability to play shortstop, I think he's going to be a huge part of our team because of the position he plays, but because of the energy he brings. And he was kind of a surprise for us, really, over the last year or so. And then the other guy for us on the mound really is Noah Lewis. I think Noah Lewis, who is a guy that's been in the rotation as a freshman, kind of had a rough year last year. He's changed. He's really taking a little better care of himself this year, and I think he's gonna. He has a chance of being a very good college pitcher, and he's a couple ticks away from maybe being a professional arm at some point.
Exciting to see, and exciting to see Jake out there, and just 19 games he was able to give you when you lost him last year. Real quick, give us a perspective of the America East Conference. Conference that was born in the late 70s when we all were much younger. But, give us your perspective. You are not afraid to challenge yourself out of conference, understanding that so you can be strong. You won the conference last year. As a coach, give us a perspective of the kind of baseball and what goes on within your conference.
So the conference has changed a little bit this year because we've lost Stony Brook and we're adding Bryant. Hartford's also going to be out of our conference. So, those are Stony Brook and Hartford were really very good within conference. Yeah. But there's a lot of parity. And I'm gonna be real. I mean, when we step out there, I expect that we win the conference every single year. It's a good conference. We're probably ranked. If we're ranked 17 or 18, we belong to be 17 or 18. We're not I don't know if we're really right now. We've been in that 14, and we probably should have been, but we haven't gotten those key wins outside as a conference. So I can't say we're better than where we are. But I do think that there's a lot of really good baseball players that are here. The top half of the conference, the top 3 or 4 teams, can beat a lot of teams around. And I think that's really what it comes down to. But conference baseball, you are your conference in the sense of any team could beat anybody any day of the week.
Nick, thanks for spending time with Hunter and I. We really appreciate connecting, understanding where you are with your program, celebrating certainly one of your alums in Jeremy Pena. And more than anything, have a great fall, the rest of it. Have a great holiday season and an amazing 2023 season.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on, and best to you guys as well.
The perspective at Maine from Nick Derba. We also want to thank the Cape Cod MVP out of Maryland, Matt Shaw, who joined us on this show. On behalf of Hunter and I, thanks for spending every single week with us on Perfect Game College Baseball. We'll see you next week.